The Celtics season is moving fast, and beneath the surface of wins and rotations, one question is growing louder inside NBA circles. Anthony Simons. Is he truly built for what comes next, or is this experiment already running against the clock? Analysts around the league are starting to raise their eyebrows. And the timing of this debate could not be more sensitive for Boston. Before we go deeper, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the hype button right now. This helps the channel grow and guarantees you stay ahead of every major Celtics development. Simons arrived in Boston during the summer in the deal that sent Jrue Holiday to Portland. From day one, he was seen as a scoring guard who could spark the second unit. On paper, the move made sense. A proven shooter. A player entering the final year of a 4-year contract worth $100 million. But as the 2025 to 2026 season unfolds, the conversation around his true value is shifting fast. Around the league, the expectation is clear. If the Celtics decide to act near the February 5th trade deadline, Simons becomes an obvious trade chip. From a front office perspective, the logic is simple. Turning an expiring contract into long-term assets is better than risking losing that value for nothing in the summer. That alone keeps his name active in trade discussions, even if Boston has not made a final decision. The complication begins on the court. Simons has carved out a role off the bench. In 29 games, all as a reserve, he is averaging 13 points, just over 2 rebounds, and a little more than 2 assists per game. His shooting numbers are solid, over 43% from the field and nearly 37% from 3. Offensively, he does his job. But playoff basketball does not forgive one-way players. That is where concern turns into skepticism. ESPN analyst Tim Bongtong, speaking on the Hoop Collective podcast, openly questioned whether Simons would matter once the postseason begins. His argument is direct and uncomfortable. In high-leverage moments, Boston leans heavily on Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. Defense becomes non-negotiable. Simons, by most advanced metrics, struggles badly on that end. According to dunks and threes, he ranks in the bottom 10th percentile among guards in defensive estimated plus-minus dot. This is not noise. This is data, and it fuels a much bigger issue. If Simons cannot be trusted defensively in the playoffs, does his regular season scoring justify his spot when the margin for error disappears? Brad Stevens and the Celtics front office know this evaluation window is closing fast. Yet moving him is not without risk. Trading Simons creates a depth problem at guard. That means one move likely leads to another, possibly multiple adjustments, just to rebalance the roster before the postseason. This is not a simple decision. It is a chain reaction waiting to happen. And that brings us to the moment that matters most. As the deadline approaches, the Celtics are being forced to answer a hard question under pressure. Do you keep a scorer who may not survive playoff matchups? Or do you act early and reshape the roster before it is too late? Because if NBA insiders are right, and Anthony Simons becomes a defensive target in the playoffs, the real risk is not what Boston gains by moving him. The real danger is what happens if they do not. So the question is unavoidable. Are the Celtics watching the clock run out on Simons, or are they preparing a move that could redefine their postseason identity before February even arrives? Celtics entered the offseason with a clear and rational objective: cut payroll aggressively, escape the tax aprons, reset the financial clock, and buy time until Jason Tatum was fully healthy. From a distance, it looked like discipline. Up close, it is starting to look like hesitation. And that hesitation may have turned into a costly mistake that Boston is only now beginning to understand. From a purely financial standpoint, the Celtics did several things right. They moved on from Jrue Holiday and his expensive contract without attaching draft picks. They brought back Anthony Simons. They sent Kristaps Porzingis to Atlanta and took back minimal salary. Those moves alone dropped Boston below the tax aprons and gave the front office flexibility. In isolation, each decision made sense, but this league does not reward partial solutions. The problem is simple and severe. The Celtics stopped short. Even after all those moves, they remain $12 million over the luxury tax line. That is not a trivial overage. Boston has lived in the tax long enough to be facing repeater penalties. Getting fully out this season would not just save money now. It would reset the repeater clock and potentially save hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 5 years. The plan was obvious. Showcase Anthony Simons and Sam Hauser early in the season, then move one or both before the trade deadline to shed that final salary and complete the reset. The hardest decisions were already made during the summer. One modest follow-up move was supposed to finish the job. That is where everything started to unravel. Simons and Hauser have not raised their value. They have done the opposite. Simons arrived in the league as a modern scoring guard, explosive, confident, capable of putting up over 22 points per game. He did in the 2023 to 2024 season. He can shoot off the catch, off the dribble, and create his own offense. On paper, that profile should travel, but the NBA has changed. A 6'3" shooting guard who struggles defensively is no longer a priority archetype. Teams want size, versatility, and two-way wings. Simons has always been a defensive liability, and in Boston, he is playing a reduced role. He is averaging just over 13 points per game on 43% shooting. He has not become more efficient, more active, or more impactful in fewer touches. That makes selling the upside much harder. Hauser was supposed to be the safer asset. A reliable shooter, system-proven, plug and play. But even that stability has cracked. After 4 straight seasons shooting above 41% from 3, he is now closer to league average. His two-point efficiency has collapsed, his turnovers are up, and his defensive impact is down. At 28 years old, with a new contract just kicking in, opposing teams are starting to question whether his production was a product of the Celtics system rather than an individual trait. This is the danger of waiting. Value is not static in the NBA. It erodes quickly when circumstances change. By delaying the final move, Boston allowed uncertainty to creep in. What once looked like flexible assets now look like complicated baits. The Celtics will still try to make something happen before the deadline. They have to. Staying over the tax undermines the entire offseason strategy. But now the leverage is gone, the urgency is higher, and the cost may be greater than it ever needed to be, which leads to the uncomfortable question hanging over the front office right now. Did the Celtics make a fatal error by not finishing the job in the summer, when the value was there and the path was clear? Or will this hesitation force them into a far more painful decision when time finally runs out? The Celtics are forcing the league to reassess them in real time. 2 months ago, the narrative was brutal. No Jason Tatum, no reliable center. A roster that had just been torn apart. Around the NBA, the assumption was clear. Boston was supposed to survive, not compete. What has happened since then is exactly why front offices stay alert when the Celtics are involved. Boston sits near the top of the Eastern Conference, stacking quality wins and leaning on internal development. Nemias Queta has given them effort. Jordan Walsh has provided energy. But effort and energy have limits, especially when the season moves from survival to expectation. This team still lacks one thing that shows up every night against elite opponents. A proven center who can anchor both ends of the floor. That is where a new idea has started circulating quietly but persistently around league circles. Miles Turner. From an analytical perspective, Turner checks boxes that very few big men can. He protects the rim at a high level, consistently flirting with 2 blocks per game. At the same time, he stretches the floor, knocking down multiple three-point shots per night. That combination alone changes how defenses behave. At 29 years old, he is not a rental. He is under contract for 3 more seasons after this one, with a deal valued at $108 million. According to analysts, Turner may be slightly overpaid. But context matters. Overpaid centers who solve structural problems are often bargains in disguise. For the Celtics, the structure is clear. Joe Mazzulla wants pace, spacing, and defensive versatility. Turner fits that philosophy almost perfectly. He does not clog the lane. He allows switches. He cleans mistakes at the rim. And most importantly, he brings playoff credibility to a position where Boston currently improvises. The proposed framework is bold, but logical. And for Simons, along with 2 first-round picks, heading out in exchange for Turner. Simons was never viewed as a long-term piece in Boston. His expiring contract was a financial tool as much as a basketball one. A way to clear money, maintain flexibility, and keep options open. Now, that flexibility may be turning into opportunity. Simons still carries value as an explosive scoring guard. A player who learned under Damian Lillard, capable of spacing the floor and creating offense. For a team like Milwaukee, pairing that shooting with Giannis Antetokounmpo solves a different problem entirely. Add draft capital, especially for a franchise limited by pick swaps, and suddenly the deal starts making sense from multiple angles. This is why the Turner conversation refuses to go away. Boston has been linked to him before. The fit has always been obvious. What changed is urgency. The Celtics are winning now, not waiting. And when a team exceeds expectations, the front office faces a choice: protect the story or push the ceiling higher while the window is open. The longer Boston waits, the louder the question becomes. Are the Celtics content with internal growth, or are they preparing a move that could redefine their identity before the trade deadline arrives? If a deal like this materializes, it would not just fill a hole. It would send a message to the rest of the conference. So here is the question that matters most right now. Are the Celtics on the verge of turning an unexpected season into a legitimate contender by making a bold move for Miles Turner? Or will hesitation once again leave a clear opportunity on the table? If you want to stay ahead of every Celtics development, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the hype button right now.